Season 5 is right around the corner, and along with it comes many changes that are going to shift the meta as well as the gameplay for many players. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my top 5 favorite things that are coming to Season 5 and why I am getting so hyped for this new season. Before we fully get into today's video, I do just want to say if this video helps you out, or if you just like it, please drop it a like. It really helps me out a lot. And if you want to see more content like this, including more build videos, loot videos, stuff like that, especially with Season 5 coming, definitely subscribe to the channel so you know when those videos go up. I also stream throughout the week over on Twitch as well as YouTube, so definitely stop by stream, say hello, lurk, anything like that. We would love to have you. But let's get into today's video. Alright, so to get us started, we will look at my very first thing that I am excited for, and that is the new artifacts. So along with Season 5, we are getting a total of 8 new artifacts. 3 of those are going to be weapons, one being a hatchet that applies debuffs for 25% longer, and that does work on both weapons. A spear that allows both of your weapons to apply a 20% weapon damage poison with your heavy attacks. And then a great axe that applies a 3% movement speed for 3 seconds on successful attacks. Works on both weapons and stacks up to 10 times. So that is a 30% movement speed buff. So pretty cool on the 3 weapons. I'm actually most excited probably for the spear and maybe the hatchet as well. I think both of those are going to play a pretty big role in some of my builds. So I'm really excited for that. As for the armor, we have a medium chest piece that is going to make it so your Empower expires 200% faster, but you deal 20% more damage. So kind of just an all-around 20% damage buff. I do foresee myself running that with like my musket build and some of my other builds, so that is one that I for sure will be going for. We have some gauntlets, some heavy gauntlets that are going to make it so whenever you take damage, you gain a charge that increases the damage of your next attack by 3% with a max of 10 charges. Kind of interesting. We'll see what all that what all goes with that. I think with heavy armor though, that actually could be pretty useful, especially like with a greatsword or something like that. So we might have to test those ones out when it hits live. And a lot of these numbers that I'm throwing out right now are the current PTR numbers. So once we hit live, we can revisit these and make sure what has or hasn't changed with them. With the heavy leg wear, you have steady foundation, which when not in a heavy loadout, you gain 20% more max health. So they're heavy legs, but if you wore it with like a medium build, then you would get 20% more max HP. That one, I don't know if I'll be running it quite as much or at all, but kind of an interesting way to increase your HP. You have some light boots that deal 15% more damage and 25% critical chance as long as you haven't hit the target within 20 seconds. Now with that one, I think personally I'd probably go with the medium chest over that, but the 25% crit chance is probably pretty useful for some builds. So I think some people might utilize that. The 20 seconds, it's a little bit tricky because that is a pretty long time to not hit someone. You kind of get one big burst, and then after that, you don't really have any extra damage coming from that artifact towards your specific target that you're on. And then the last new artifact is going to be the new amulet, which is kind of insane. I don't know what all is going to happen, but when you receive lethal damage, avoid death, and become invulnerable for, it says 1 second in these patch notes. I had heard 2 seconds, now I've seen 1 second, and it is a 180-second cooldown. So it's a pretty long cooldown, but we'll see. That one is a little bit concerning at times, depending on how it could be used, because as we all know, they did change Hatchet because the Defy Death was pretty strong with the invulnerability. So hopefully they're just tweaking it, trying to find a good balance with that, because it's pretty easy with any invulnerability in just about any game to go heavy-handed with it, and then next thing you know, it's just an essential item that if you don't have it and they do, you lose. So hopefully they, are doing a good job of balancing this. Like I said, I haven't hopped into the PTR to test all of this. I'm going to just kind of wait until it goes to live. These are just the PTR patch notes as to what they had put into the PTR initially. Now I know there are others that have been testing these things. So we'll see what happens when it actually reaches live. We'll revisit it, like I said, and see what all is changed with these. But the new artifacts, honestly, are looking pretty good. I'm really excited for them. I think it is going to shift some of the meta, shift kind of the way where some people are going to go with their builds. I know I'm going to be coming up with some new builds, maybe rethinking some of my other ones. So I'm really, really excited for that. The next thing that I am most excited for when it comes to Season 5 is actually the controller support. Now, I personally will not be playing on controller, but the reason why I'm so excited for it is because it actually allows for more players to play. There are some people who might have a disability where a controller is just the best way that they can play the game, and it's going to be awesome that New World will now actually allow access to people like that maybe in the past have struggled to play the game or just plain out not played it because of the fact that we didn't have the best controller support. But now they are actually adding it, so you're going to get some aim assist, enemy target lock. There's going to be various different things that are going to make controllers actually viable in New World. Now, I know a lot of people have been worried for the PvP side of it, but honestly, I don't think it's going to be much of a problem. As far as the PvP goes, we're not going to have, just people lasering people down with muskets just because they're on controller. And if they do, I mean, I think that AGS will realize that and definitely make a push to actually change that. Now, I have heard that like the aim assist and some of the target lock and all that stuff is going to be different for PvE and PvP. I don't 100% know on that. That's just what I've heard. But hopefully there is some differentiation between PvP and PvE, because PvE, I think they should keep it, good with the aim assist, good with the enemy targets, stuff like that, just because of the fact that like for PvE, it really doesn't matter as much. And it's really just for those to be able to play and enjoy. And honestly, for some people, playing on controller is just a lot more chill and they might just prefer it because of that. But for me personally, like I said, I'm very, very excited because this is a big push for just allowing more players to play this game that we all love. And hopefully one day they even push it to console, which I know some people are not wanting. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea just because of the fact that that increases our player base, which potentially opens it up for us to get more game modes outside of, OPR, 3v3, stuff like that. Maybe get a, capture the flag type of a game mode or something like that. But honestly, if we had the player base, they could really start to branch out and create all these different game modes and have a lot of fun with it. So definitely second on my list, controller support. I think is a fantastic thing that AGS is bringing to New World. The third thing that I am most excited about for Season 5 is equip load changes. Now, with the equip load changes, and in the past AGS has said, they want medium armor to be that exactly what it is, that middle ground. They want it to be not, pushed one way or the other as far as damage output, healing output, anything like that. So what they've done is they have made it so medium equip load is now the baseline with damage, crowd control durations, outgoing healing, and block stability values. So they are now adjusted to 0 across the board, so there's no increase or decrease at all for it. So they did for sure make medium that middle ground. Now for the changes for heavy and light, now, again, some people might be a little upset depending on what builds you run, but I do think that these are some very good changes. With the heavy equip load, it now has a 20% decrease to incoming CC status effects and durations, as well as a 15% block stability. So they're really pushing for, the heavy armors to be a lot tankier, to be able to kind of stay in that fight, to be able to block, stuff like that, which I'm really excited for that part. The trade-off, though, is that you do get a minus 15% damage output, as well as minus 30% outgoing healing, which we've had the outgoing healing nerf. That doesn't really bother me. The 15% isn't that great for us, but there's still empowerments. There's other ways that we can still be able to stack some of that damage and still maybe make heavy armor fairly viable, even for more of a DPS build as opposed to purely a tank build. So I'm really excited to play around with that because heavy armor I actually have recently been really enjoying because of melee. I don't like light melee. I love heavy melee, and I've really been having a lot of fun with it. The other thing with the heavy equip load is they have increased the threat generation from taunting gems and perks to account for the decrease in damage output, which that is a really good thing. It's something that I honestly didn't even think about when it came to the minus 15% damage, but having that threat generation that much better is going to be great for tanking because I do still enjoy tanking from time to time. So being able to have that threat generation, even with a little bit lower damage output, will be very nice. For the light equip load, we still have the 15% damage increase and then a plus 30% outgoing healing. So we still get the damage increase and an outgoing healing increase. And then the trade-off for that is going to be a minus 15% block stability. So if you're running a light armor, sword and shield or flail and shield, your blocks are going to be a little bit, a little shaky there. You just want to be careful with your stam. And then you get a plus 10% incoming CC status effect duration. So if you do get CC'd, it's going to be a little bit rough with the plus 10%. But honestly, I think light is going to be very, very strong next season. I think we're going to see a lot more of it, especially with the new artifacts that are coming in. So overall, I think really, really good changes. Like I said, they've been saying over and over, they want medium to feel like it is medium, that middle ground. So I might honestly start running some medium builds. I don't run medium armor a whole lot right now. I'm mainly either light armor or heavy armor, but next season I might have to try out some medium, and definitely heavy. I'm going to dive a lot more into it because I still love heavy. I think even with the nerf to it, I think it'll be good. Because, we still have occasionally a fire staff with heavy armor and a flamethrower. Now they get that minus 15% damage. So I think overall it's going to be really nice. We're still going to see some of those same builds for sure. But I think just because of the new artifacts and these equip load changes, we will see a bit of a meta shift. The fourth thing that I am most excited for in Season 5, and this is a big one for a lot of players, and that is the magnify changes. Magnify has been a pretty big headache for a lot of players. Now, if you only run 2 attribute builds, like a healing build, like what I run a lot of the time, I should say, it's not as big of a deal because of the fact that you only have 2 attributes. Once you start splitting them up, though, it can get a little bit tricky if you're trying to do, like a 300, 200 or something like that with a little bit of con. The magnify can really mess you up. But in Season 5, what they are doing is they are making it so we can actually pick the specific stat that we want all of our magnify going into. So what that means is if you want to do like a 300, 200, like 100 or whatever split, you'll be able to actually pick the specific core attribute that you want your magnify to go to, and it will all be connected to that specific attribute, allowing you to then move your other attribute points around without having to worry about, well, if I add one more point here, now my magnify is going to get stacked, or if I take a consumable, then it's going to change it. It can be such a headache, and a lot of us know that. And honestly, I know it was a struggle for them to figure out how can we make magnify work, because they didn't want to just like make a quick change and then have it be worse or have it be something that they're constantly changing. And I think this is honestly a really, really good way for them to go about it. But this is like a pretty minor thing when you look at it on paper, but it's so major once you start actually playing around with builds, and especially when you're trying to use a lot of like named items, or you might get enough materia to be rolling some of that stuff. And it's just like, it's frustrating when you find a perfect named item or you have one and you literally can't wear it because it gives you too much magnify in a way that like shifts your attributes and you just like can't work with it. So I think it's fantastic that they made this change. I think it's a really, really good step in the right direction. Maybe they'll leave it the way that it is. Maybe they'll change it in the future to make it even, more customizable for us. But honestly, I think this is a great start. I'm very, very excited for this change. This is definitely one of my top 5 because when I heard it, I got so excited, and I think many of you did as well. And for the last thing that I am most excited for in Season 5, that is the changes to the Outpost Rush doors. I love Outpost Rush. Many of you know I play quite a bit of Outpost Rush. I just have fun with it. I love it, playing different builds, playing with friends, stuff like that. One of the most frustrating things in OPR, though, is when you have the majority of your team swinging on a door and it is one person repairing it. We've all been there. Those of us who have played OPR, especially those who play OPR quite a bit, we all know it happens. PvE can literally win the game because they can sit there and repair. It has been an issue for a long time. They've actually nerfed the damage to the doors and this and that. And it is finally time to be able to take the doors down in OPR. And what they are doing is making a few different changes. So they actually added a 50% weakness for siege damage to fort gate doors, allowing siege weaponry like powder kegs to deal bonus damage to these structures, meaning we'll be able to keg doors hopefully bust right through them, do a lot more damage, and that would be really, really sweet. The other thing that they're doing is they reduce the strike slash they reduce the strike slash absorption of fort gate doors from 10% strike slash 20% slash to 0% for both, ensuring that strike and slash damage types are not reduced when attacking gates. We aim for melee to have a bit of an advantage onto the gates, as thrust slash elemental damage is more prevalent in ranged weapons than melee. So that makes sense because the slash and strike damage, you are up front, you are the front line, you are taking significantly more damage typically. So why is your damage nerfed? It's just kind of a double negative there, and it does not make a positive in any way. So this change is huge. This is really, really nice, especially, again, I've been enjoying heavy armor melee. So for me, that's great. I can actually swing on a door and, you know, do decent damage to it. So that's going to be really, really nice, you know, just to help push through the doors on top of having the kegs and stuff like that. But the best part of this change is the last part here. That is, they increased build and repair time for gate doors by 25% for tier 2 gate and 50% for the tier 3 gate, reducing the strength of each repair tick. So on top of us doing more damage, being able to use kegs to actually bust through doors, they also reduce the amount of repairing that you can do per tick. So yes, tier 3 gates are still going to be a pain to get through, but if we have our whole team and we're pushing, ideally, we should be able to actually get through that door without someone sitting there, one person sitting there, repairing over and over and over and over and over. So it's strange, but this is probably my favorite thing coming to Season 5. I play so much OPR that I get so tired of swinging on doors, and a lot of us do, that I think this is a change that most OPR players have been waiting for a very long time, and we are finally getting it. It's so awesome. Very, very excited. It's going to be awesome for OPR. It's going to be just great. I mean, obviously, we're still waiting on matchmaking. That's going to be something that we're just going to still be waiting on. Hopefully, they can figure out a good, you know, system for that down the road. But honestly, fantastic change. It's long overdue, but we're getting it. So we're very, very happy with that. But Outpost Rush doors are no longer going to be absolutely invincible, hopefully, and kegs are going to be, you know, bigger. They already reduced the cost and increased the health of kegs. So overall, I think these are some really good changes. They are bringing mounts into OPR. I'm not going to get into that today, but this change is absolutely fantastic. I think this is one of the best changes they could have brought to OPR. Season 5 really is fast approaching, and a lot of us are just kind of hanging tight until that big patch comes. And honestly, with all the big changes, I'm very, very excited to see where the meta shifts and just what happens to the game as we get the controller support, you know, equip load changes, all that stuff. I'm really, really excited for it, and hopefully you are too. But that is going to do it for today's video, so until next time, I'll see you guys later.